This is Seth David for schoolofbookkeeping.com, bringing to you a special presentation on the benefits of Xero, where I presented at the Santa Barbara Bookkeepers Association.
Has anybody here heard of Xero? All right, prior to my just mentioning it? So as I mentioned, Xero is the up-and-comer, right? They're the cloud accounting app that's giving QuickBooks Online a run for its money. And there's a reason for that. It's a compelling product. The company calls it beautiful accounting. And I'm going to show you in a minute why they call it that. It really does have a beautiful interface. It looks gorgeous. You almost forget that you're actually working in a browser when you're working in Xero. As a matter of fact, I chose to use Xero as the accounting package for schoolofbookkeeping.com, mostly to force myself to use it more and learn it and learn everything it can do. And as I mentioned, I've met the insiders at the company. I've been to their conferences, and so from what I see, these guys aren't going away anytime soon. I think it'll take a long time if they ever get sort of caught up to Intuit. I mean, Intuit's just such a behemoth of a company. I don't know that they'll ever get to that level. Plus, Intuit has such a wide array of products. These guys have one product. They do one thing, and they do it really well, and that's a GL package in the cloud. And in fact, they've been pretty clear about the fact that they're not trying to be much more than that. So they're really leaving their API, of course, being a product that was initially and always developed, in the cloud for cloud users. They're really clear on their sort of direction. They're not going to build a whole lot of extra infrastructure onto it. They're going to leave that for the developers to come in. And they already have a tremendous and impressive suite of add-ons that work with Xero. So Xero is fresh. Xero it's the new kid on the block. It's fresh, and they basically said, we're going to ignore all the stuff that all the other accounting software companies have done, and we're going to take a whole new approach to this. We're going to try and be the modern, the modern approach to cloud accounting, and they are. They've accomplished that very well. They're innovative, right? They've simplified the language, so they understand that even though we like to talk about debits and credits, our clients don't. So you'll see they've simplified the language. When we're going to record checks, it says spend money. Right? It doesn't really get much simpler than that. So that's what I'm doing, is spending money. And you'll see that kind of built in throughout the product. And again, I can't stress enough how clean the interface is, but let me not talk about it. Let me just show you. So here's a demo company for Xero. And what it does is they know the first thing, especially business owners, want to see when they log into their accounting software. The first question, what do they always ask? How much money do I have? Right? So boom, here's the bank feed section. That's what you log into. That's the first thing you see. And the way Xero works is it's like a perpetual reconciliation system, in a sense, because the transactions come in from the bank overnight, every night. And then I can go in and I can reconcile these 29 items that it says it has waiting for me. And once I do that, it knows what the balance per bank is on any given day because it's downloading the feed every day. So all I have to do is go to run the reconciliation report, tell it the ending date of the statement, and it'll show me everything that's cleared, everything that's in transit. And it basically does there is still a reconciliation process you can go through where you are, in fact, checking everything off to confirm that it's cleared, but you almost don't need to do it. I still recommend doing it. I still make sure my clients do it just to be absolutely certain that there can't be any mistake about it. But it's still very nice to know that at any given time, my account's reconciled. So we can take a look at that because these guys really pioneered the whole side-by-side matching system, which QuickBooks has frankly copied. If you look at this, look what it does. Of course, when it recognizes a match, it tells you it recognizes the match. Let's say I don't know what a transaction is. How many times have you had to run reports, dump it into Excel, and send the uncategorized transactions to your client and say, explain these transactions to me. I have no idea where you spent your money or what it was for, right? Here, you can have the dialogue right here in the product. Notice I put, huh? And that's in the Discuss tab. When I put that in, the client will get a notification that I put a note in on a transaction, and they'll be taken right here so that they can answer the question and say, oh, I bought my mother a gift. I accidentally used the company card, whatever it was. And incidentally, when you're entering the comments, you can press Control-S to make sure that the comment gets saved, and that's what will trigger the message to go to your client. Beyond that, I can either match it if I think it's found a match. I can create the transaction if it's never been entered. And I can, if it's a transfer between my own accounts, then of course that tab is there right here. And then if it's sort of none of the above, and I'm pretty sure I've got the transaction in there somewhere, then I can do find and match. And it will give me a list of transactions, or I can search until I find the correct match. So then I can, if I've determined it's not there, I can go in and click the Create tab, and then everything's there. I put in the name, the account. If I want more details, I click Add Details. I can even select A region is, these are custom tracking codes that you can set up. You're allowed 2 categories of custom tracking in Xero. So you know how in QuickBooks you have class tracking? So here you can have the equivalent of class tracking and some other kind of tracking. So you know, it gives you a little bit more flexibility. It is limited to 2. And when you set those up, they will each appear as a drop-down in every single transaction. So that's what this region is in this sample company. And if you want more details, you just click Add Details. And again, it takes you into the bigger dialog. And you know, you can go through the screen, of course, and figure out pretty much what everything is. So again, really nice interface, really easy to use. And we can create rules. So the rules are, how many of you, I'm sure most of you have used in QuickBooks Desktop the alias system, right? Where you download it and you create an alias. So it basically says, when you download this name convention from the bank, then I want you to link it to this vendor in my vendor list and use this account in my account list to code it. The problem with that system was, if I go to a chain and they happen to put the store number in the transaction data that downloads in the payee field, then it doesn't recognize the match, even though I've created the alias. I've got to do it one extra time. For every 7-Eleven I go to in the whole country, I have to have another alias set up. And it gets messy after a while. So what these guys did, and what QuickBooks Online has now sort of copied on, is I can create rules. And I can basically say, look inside, and if you get a partial match, if you just see the number 7-11, or if you see it spelled out as 7-11, and you can put in both criteria, so if it finds either one of those situations, then it'll code it to my meals expense and it'll code it to my vendor name 7-Eleven. So that's in here. You can create rules. If you have a lot of cash coding that you want to do and you want to do it in kind of a batch and spreadsheet-like format, that's here too. So here this lets you kind of go through transaction by transaction, fill in the account, you know, all the information. Again, it's kind of like being in a spreadsheet, and then when you're done, save and reconcile all. Remember here, the term reconcile really means added into the register. And they consider that reconciled because they're on a constant basis comparing what's in the register with what's been downloaded from the bank overnight. Yeah, I mean, it's really not an Excel spreadsheet, but it's a grid. And it makes it easy to work with lots of transactions at once. This is just a little bit more of a detailed layout as opposed to the reconcile screen, so that you have your kind of choice as far as which one you want to choose. And you know, this is what you'd use if you have a lot of stuff that you know it's probably the same stuff from the same places, and you just want to kind of quickly copy and paste the names in, you know, things like that. Then you can do that here. So this just lets you get the data entry done a little more efficiently. You know, this is kind of what you probably do if you're behind, and the first screen is what you do, you know, if you're keeping up with it every single day. So, and there's some things you can do here that you can't do in the other screen, like digging around, commenting, and you know, all this other fun stuff. The settings here is interesting. Notice it has favorites. So if you go into the whole settings menu, all you have to do is star any one of these general settings areas, and it will show up there under those favorites. So you can customize your menus. QuickBooks Desktop has something similar to that, but not nearly as easy to do. Here, again, just from within this list, I can tell what's starred and what's not. So if I don't want inventory items, but I want currencies in there, I undo one, I do the other, scroll back up, and notice now currencies is there. Here's my tracking codes. That's what I was talking about. So again, you're allowed 2 of these, and they've got the region here, right? So that's how, in the demo company, they're choosing to use one of the tracking codes. So once you create a tracking category, you can add any number of choices that can be accessed in the drop-downs when you're entering transactions. What do you guys think? Who wants to try Xero? It's a great product.